Hey, you guys. I hope week 9 was a good experience, that you guys had some time to relax and refresh your creativity with the projects that were completed last week. This week, I wanted to start off with giving you guys a couple tips and tricks and moving forward with week 10. I can't believe we have about a month left of our course. But exciting this week is probably, I'm looking forward to it. The creative ad, I think, sounds really exciting. That's something I spend quite a bit of time on for clients, is working on creative ads. Photoshop is really rather fun. I'll be honest with you guys, out of all the Adobe programs, it was the one I was the most terrified about learning and using. However, once I got into it and I started utilizing the skills I learned in that program, I really enjoyed it. It's actually, outside of Illustrator, it's probably my next favorite. So moving forward, I wanted to talk through this week's assignments just a little bit and give you guys some tips and tricks that I hope will save time and also kind of save you from having a headache later on. So let me go ahead and share my screen so you guys can see what we're working with. You'll see me up in the corner. I'm just going to click into this screen a little bit larger so you can see. Right here, I'm in the creative ad draft under week 10. So if you go into week 10's file folder in iLearn and then hit the creative ad draft, you guys know exactly where you're headed on this. This is basically the project outline. I wanted to talk through this. I know some of you have been concerned about grades and want to make sure that you're getting as many points as possible. And there are some things that I know that we overlook as we're busy working on the project. So I wanted to cover those and make sure that you guys understood. So this week you'll complete the Photoshop worksheet and turn that in on Wednesday. We're back to that same old routine that we have been doing. So Wednesday's the Photoshop worksheet is due, and then Saturday you'll turn in the project report part 1, and then also a PDF version of your ad. You can go ahead and turn in the larger ad and not the smaller one, and you guys will understand that in just a second as we cover this. But I wanted to talk through the points and then some things that make things easier. So first, let's just go to minimum expectations so you guys can have a better look at this. So first of all, last week you guys did the project specification generator. You are not creating a new product or a new company. Instead, you're going to pick one from last week and kind of go work from there. So that's part of the reason that we used that creativity on the creative ad last week, is so that we can move it forward into this week. So if you forgot or just didn't like your options, you can go ahead and jump down to the project specification generator. I went ahead and hit the button at the bottom. So for this, so I can give you an example, the product I got was needle and thread. So keep that in mind as we talk through this. You'll get that item and that idea, and then you're going to determine a specific brand for the chosen product. You do not have to create a company or design a logo or anything like that. Instead, we want you to go out and basically find an existing company or brand that carries whatever product that you got out of the generator. So for me, I got the needle and thread, and the first thing that came to my mind when I was growing up, my mom is a sewer, and so she constantly had Singer sewing machine products around our house. And so I wanted to show you where I would go and how to find basically a logo. Now, you might assume that the easiest way to do it is just go to Google, and you'd be completely right. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and type in Singer, and because I know that if I just type in Singer, it's going to give me probably like rock stars, I'm just going to put Singer sewing machine, and then logo. Make sure you look for logo, and then hit enter. You'll want to go to the images so that you can take a look and you can see all the different options. There's a lot of great options out here. However, something that will make your life significantly easier is by typing in at the end of your search in the search bar PNG. Now, basically, PNG is a type of file that gives you like a transparent background. You guys are probably familiar with this. I might have talked about it before, or you've heard it in the course or in other locations. But choosing something with a transparent background will make implementing your logo onto your ad so much easier. So instead of coming up with that big white block behind your logo, this will cut that process out. You could technically load in a JPEG that has a white background into your logo, but it will make it a lot more professional without that white background. So you could use the JPEG, you could go into Photoshop and take out the white background, but saving yourself a step and also not having to worry about how well you do at removing that background will make things a lot easier. I'm going to go ahead and click on this big circle S so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. oftentimes PNG files will show up with this gray and white checked grid behind it. That's just showing you that the background is transparent. So what I would do, instead of just downloading from this image right here, you're going to want to go over to the visit the website and be able to basically download that in PNG form. So if it's available in PNG, by all means, right here, you'll just hit this button and it will download to your screen. Another option you will notice, once you hit PNG, you will see that there are quite a few options per se that don't appear like they have that gray background showing. So that's another thing. If you see something that you really like, I happen to really like the S with the singer involved because I like that icon along with the singer name. So I'm going to click on that. And it does not seem to show, it seems like it is just a JPEG, but I'm going to go ahead and visit the website to make sure I don't have the option to download it as a JPEG. So it actually is used on their website. And there are some companies who actually list their logos and things on their website available for download. So you may want to even go straight to like the singer's website and check that out. But my point in showing you this is that sometimes this particular one, it actually took me to a file that has a white background. However, it may show up white here in the search, but it actually will come up and it will be, it will actually be a PNG file. So like, for example, right here, this one appears to have a white background over on this right-hand side, but when I click on it and I enlarge it, I can see very clearly that it has the gray and white transparent background, and it's a PNG file that I need. So I could download that, and this is probably the one I would select because it gives me their tagline. It also gives me this over 160 years of trust worldwide. This gives me more features than what I'm looking for. So you could take this image, and then once you get into Photoshop, you could crop it down to just be the portion of the PNG file that you want. So that's something to keep in mind and hopefully save a little bit of time for you so you don't have to clip out that white background. Now going back to the creative ad draft, the next thing that you need to have is the two blended images. Now they don't need to be images that you originally shot yourself. However, they need to be legally attained. For this course, they need to be legal for fair use. So right here you can see how those media requirements are for the course. But I'm going to go ahead and show you kind of what I would do. So with my thread and needle as my product, probably the first thing that I would do would be to look through open source images, which are images that are available for use or for free use. I just typed into Google open source images and it gives me a couple different options. Pixabay is a great option. Pexels is one that I use quite a bit for my clients. Unsplash is another great option. There are lots of free resources out there that you can use. So just make sure that you're searching from one of those and that you can go in and search. Now for me, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a heads up on the type of photos that you're going to want to look for as you are working to blend. Now my product is a needle and thread. So I'm going to go right in here to Google, and again I'm going to do the same idea. I'm still in my Google and it's specifically set for images. So I'm just going to type in needle and thread and I'm going to hit enter and see what it brings up for me. Here's quite a few options in fact. So you can see that there's some dresses that might be, maybe that's how I want to incorporate my needle and thread. Probably the first thing that I'm looking for is a very literal use of needle and thread. So for me, this image right here seems like a pretty good option. One way to know whether it is fair use if you look on Google is to go, once you're into the images, so you'll see you're in Google here, here's your search bar, images needs to be selected, and then you go to tools, and it gives you the second drop-down menu, and you can go right in here to usage rights. So see, this is a great image. I would love to use it, but let's check to make sure. Right now it's not filtered by license, so that's a problem for me. What we want to choose is labeled for reuse. And you can see that needle and thread is no longer available. So that puts me back to the drawing board. Something to pay attention to is to say, okay, I need to make sure that I'm in the fair use when I'm searching so that I have an image that's okay to use. As far as needle and thread, I'm not seeing anything awesome that I'm totally in love with. So I'm going to go back, just going to give you the same idea and talk through with the white space. So let's say that this was a fair use, that it was something that I could use fair use. I actually really, really, really like the fact that this is very simplistic. And so I might download that to take it as one of my options. I also feel like this embroidery thread would be a really great way to go about it if you were pitching needle and thread Singer products to crafters. Using something like this would be really awesome. So if I'm not finding what I'm looking for, thinking through how you're going to pitch it or who you're going to pitch it to. If I'm looking for crafters, I might go back up here and put crafters into my search bar and see what comes up. But let's say that I'm pitching to individuals who need to repair clothing. So this image right here, I'm going to click on it. It obviously requires a needle and thread that's addressed with a lot of embroidery, but the thing that I want you to pay attention to here is this. When you're selecting images for this ad, you want to make sure that whatever the big feature image is that you're selecting, that you provide enough white space. Now, white space doesn't actually mean that it needs to be white. We just want to have free open space in your photograph. So right here is a great example. This image is awesome in the sense that she's over on the right-hand side, and that over here, there's a lot of space where I could add my company logo, my tagline, my call to action, those type of things in my ad, and it would really make sense. The other great thing about this is it gives me so much available white space that if I did decide to point out that these incredible flowers were embroidered on with a needle and thread from Singer, we could basically take this image up here and filter it in and basically fuse the images together, blend them together like you're going to learn this week in Photoshop in the worksheet exercises. And then I could put in something like make gorgeous your everyday using Singer needle and threads to customize your clothing. And then it would say, you know, Singer, and then it would give some type of tagline in the call to action, access Singer products at any local craft store or online, and you give their website. So that would give you the kind of idea, but you want to be creative in the images that you convey together. So like, of course, my tagline or my statement, my text is, you know, make gorgeous your everyday. It's not really specific to you know, buy a needle and thread and sell your own clothes. So make sure you're using your creativity as you write your text. Then also look for the visual so you have enough space to put in those elements without causing too much busyness. You want pictures that have some breathing room, that give you enough space to drop in the additional information you need for your ad. Finally, let's go back to that creative ad draft one more time. You'll want to make sure that your symbolic visual communication, you want it to be symbolic. You don't need it. You don't want to be so literal. So exactly like with that image of the lady in the dress and the needle and thread, I don't want to be like, sew your own clothes. Instead, what we want to do is basically give us an idea that it comes to us as we see the picture, what exactly they mean. And a perfect example of this is right here, listed in the creative ad draft requirements. You can see right here, the images on the right-hand side, these are actually 4 images, not just 2 that were blended together. Here's the night sky. Then you've got the ground down here at the bottom. They've also used a light bulb, and they've blended this in, just the light bulb portion, turned it upside down. And then the world, they've blended over the top to give you the idea that GE light bulbs are eco-friendly, that they're green, that they're sustainable, and that we're going to light the world one GE light bulb at a time. So you can see I got all of that even without reading the text that goes with it. And that's one of the great things about creative ads. Ads that are really super creative and really good at communicating, they communicate both through very little text in the sublines and the taglines and those type of things, but they also communicate the same message visually. So that's something that you really want to pay attention to as well. Finally, I just wanted to talk to you guys about points and how this works. When I look at the rubric and I grade these drafts, I want you to keep this in consideration. The minimum expectations right here, following and all of these bullet points to a T will get you 15 out of 25 points, okay? So that's quite a bit. That's over, you'll get over 50% of your grade is based on this minimum expectation, okay? So if you miss one of these, you're gonna miss points that would be easily collected by you if you just make sure to hit every one of these bullet points, okay? This week, you'll notice we need to create the ad in 2 different sizes. This is something that's just totally the norm when you're creating ads for a company or for if you're a graphic designer and you have a client. This is something you'll do quite often is multiple sizes. For this project this week, you only need to turn in the full-size large ad for the draft. when you turn in the final, you'll need to make sure that you do both, okay? So keep that in mind as well. But this, following these expectations, that's 15 points, okay? The next thing that you need to take into consideration is the project, this project report part 1. You'll turn that in this week. Part 2 and part 1 included next week. But part 1, that is going to be another 3 points. So although it's super important and you want those 3 points and it's easy to get it, remember it's just 3 points, okay? So spend a lot of time making sure you hit the minimum expectations. The following 7 points, and this is not very big, so I wanted to draw attention to it. Down here underneath the project generator, the design expectations. This design expectations is worth 7 points, and it is probably the most fluid giving of points that I have where I can control it. So you're going to be graded on your understanding, application, and integration of the principles of design. Topography, color, and photography. So remember, all those things we learned back at the beginning of the semester, I need to see you implementing those into your creative ad design, because that's how I'm going to be able to give you points. So make sure you follow those rules, or if you're going to break them, make sure you do a really good job breaking them. You think through why it is that you're not going to follow the rule, and even probably include that idea of why you broke a rule in your project draft, because I'm a little bit more lenient if you explain to me why you feel like not following the rules of design helps your project. So if you explain that to me in your report, I'm more willing to consider it. But if I see you not following the basic principles of design and topography and color, then I'm going to have to be able to dock you points. The other thing is I want this project has to include I have to be able to see that you're really using your creativity, and that it's evidence that you're using original thinking, and you're being skillful in your use of the concepts that we've been learning in this class. So remember that. The design expectations were 7 points. Your minimum expectations are 15 of the 25. And the project report is just 3. But all of them are super important. So keep in mind, give yourself enough time to get them all completed and turn them in so you can get the full points possible. Let's see. I think I've covered open sources. I've covered the PNG files. I think that might be it from me. I know you guys jumping back into things. You'll also notice, this is the one thing I wanted to point out. So right here at this link, there are creative ads on Pinterest. These are good resources. There's something that you may want to take a look at. But hopefully that will help you save a little bit of time. Don't stress. It's okay if you're not feeling like you've got a super creative idea. Just start going forward. Choose a product from the project generator that seemed to be something that caught your eye, and then move forward. I was talking to another instructor, and I was watching a couple of the videos that she provided to her students, and she started off with microwaves as her product. And she said, okay, like, well, I know KitchenAid makes microwaves. And so she started looking for microwaves. And then by the end of the video, she had decided that instead what she was going to do, instead of being so literal and having a microwave as her main image, instead she had a kitchen that had a microwave in it that was kind of off to the side. And she had the KitchenAid logo super big. And then she had a huge cup of hot chocolate sitting on the counter, kind of in the foreground of the image. And she said, make every day a warm memory. And then it said KitchenAid. So it was, and then underneath it said like, KitchenAid supplies multiple things, but you can heat up your hot chocolate and meals and everything to a T with these super great microwaves. And so you can see how she started with something but kind of got a little bit less literal and a lot more creative in that process. So keep that in mind. It doesn't have to be just a picture of the needle and thread or a microwave or a wooden spoon. It can be something beyond that where those products may be used, or they might be kind of in the background, but it's not the main image. You guys are doing great so far. Like I said earlier, I think I'm working on grading those projects for you guys. You should see grades popping up. Please, 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 if you have an issue about a grade, send me a note. If you have questions or comments with the Photoshop worksheet, please drop a line in the Facebook thread for Q&A for week 10. Other students may have the same question you have, so you'll want to help each other out, or just know someone else is really grateful that you asked because they found it when they looked there. So if you have a question, look in the Q&A. If it's not answered there, go ahead and put it in. If you're a student and you see that you have an answer to one of the questions out there, go ahead and answer it. I love it when you guys help each other. So we should be good to go this week. If you have questions, concerns, send me an email. Otherwise, put them in the Facebook group. You guys are doing great. I know we're back to the routine.